The studio is airless, flooded in camera light. Serena Williams sits across from the host, smiling with the weight of expectation. Behind the scenes, producers exchange glances. The segment is running longer than expected. A surprise video message is cued. She doesn't know who's about to appear. The audience, mostly quiet, shifts forward in their seats. The air thickens not with applause, but with something heavier. The host shifts tone suddenly. Before we go, there's someone who asked to speak to you. Someone watching. Serena looks curious, then still. She adjusts her earrings, leans back slightly. The screen behind her goes black. Then it lights up. Ibrahim Traoré. In full dress uniform, but not standing behind a podium, he's outside, in front of a wall of dark green trees, the natural light soft, almost reverent. No fanfare, no salute, just him and the camera. He doesn't smile. He breathes in, then speaks. I never met Serena Williams, but I watched her be disrespected on court. I watched silence surround her greatness. I watched her carry what no champion should carry alone. The words are quiet, heavy. The studio grows hushed. A lighting assistant lowers his hand from a switch, not blinking. A camera operator exhales without realizing he'd been holding his breath. Serena blinks once. Her mouth slightly parts, but she says nothing. The narration takes over now, not from a voice, but from memory. Serena's memory. Not trophies or magazine covers, but the headlines. Too masculine, too angry. Not the right image for tennis. Flashbulbs capturing her mid-roar, then cropped to suggest rage. The 2001 Indian Wells jeers. The Australian cartoon with grotesque exaggerations. The US Open incident, where an umpire's smirk felt louder than his words. Each moment wasn't just public, it was packaged, sold, replayed, and then forgotten by those it didn't bruise. But this isn't about applause. It isn't tribute. It's reckoning. Ibrahim's voice returns. They made you win twice, once the match and once the war. His tone remains measured, as if each syllable is deliberate. But you never threw the first stone. You chose grace. The studio feels frozen in time. The applause sign stays dark. No one dares to break the silence. The camera cuts to Serena again. Her jaw tightens. Her eyes narrow, not in anger, but in something deeper. She's listening fully, maybe for the first time in years. Ibrahim's next line changes the room. This is not praise. This is apology. From a generation of black sons raised on your image, not your interviews. We saw the rage behind your stillness. We saw the bruises hidden behind grace, and we thank you. The words hang in the air. There is no music, no cut, just the weight of truth. Serena's voice emerges, barely above a whisper. Turn it off, but it's not fury. It's not withdrawal. It's the crack before something shatters. The host shifts nervously, hand signaling the booth. A producer tries to fade out, but the camera holds one more second, just long enough to catch Serena's face as she turns, one tear sliding silently down her cheek. She doesn't wipe it, she lets it fall. The screen fades to black. No applause, no summary, just the echo of one word heard only by those closest to the moment. Finally, the internet explodes. Hashtags flood timelines. Hashtag we see you Serena and Traoré tribute. Clips of the moment resurface in every language. News outlets repackage it for reels and headlines, but none can recreate the stillness that cracked Serena's composure on live TV. The video is watched not just as a tribute, but as a mirror. It's not just a thank you. It's an echo of everything that came before. But this story didn't start with a tribute, it started with silence. A silence that stretched for decades and wore different names: criticism, professionalism, tradition. Narration carries us backward through the noise that had surrounded Serena her entire career. Headlines scoffing at her body, whispers from commentators calling her unfeminine, audiences booing her for winning, then accusing her of arrogance. The 2001 Indian Wells jeers weren't an anomaly. They were a blueprint. The world watched a young black woman win and punished her for not smiling through it. The camera lingers on a conversation between Serena and Venus on a quiet balcony. No cameras, no makeup. Venus stirs her tea. They never apologized, did they? Serena stares into the trees. They didn't have to. They never thought they were wrong. The words land with the weight of history. Not bitterness, not anger, just fact. That calm, factual tone spreads. In leaked behind-the-scenes footage, it's revealed Ibrahim's message had not been PR approved. Producers were wary. It's political, one had warned. She might cry, another said. But a young black intern had pushed back quietly. It matters, she had whispered. We never get this kind of justice. Not like this. What followed wasn't viral, it was seismic. Athletes who had grown up in Serena's shadow now came forward. A college gymnast shared a memory of a white judge deducting points because her natural hair was distracting. A soccer player posted a video revealing how she cut interviews short to dodge racial microaggressions. A WNBA veteran posted an old photo of Serena. We watched her bleed for all of us and we stayed silent. Not anymore. The tribute became a trigger. Suddenly, everything unspoken was being spoken. Even those who had benefited from the silence began to fracture. An anonymous umpire leaked internal emails, one in which a group of male referees joked about taming Serena's attitude, referencing matches where she was penalized disproportionately. Screenshots surfaced. Silence followed. Not public. Statements just deactivated accounts. Narration guides the emotional tempo, not with volume, but weight. Not with confrontation, but reckoning. The power wasn't in how loud the voices got, but in how long they had been muted. Somewhere far from the noise, Ibrahim receives a call from a journalist. The line crackles with delay. Why Serena? The journalist asks. Ibrahim's response is short, because not all wars are fought with weapons. Some are fought with dignity under fire. The journalist pauses. And who wins those wars? Ibrahim, the ones who survive without surrendering themselves. Montage without sound. An elderly black woman, sitting alone in her kitchen. Hand on her chest as she replays the moment on a phone screen. Her eyes don't blink. A tennis academy in Baltimore posts a wall-sized mural of Serena with the caption, "Thank you for holding the line." A former white tennis champion posts a vague, defensive tweet, something about keeping sports apolitical. The backlash is instant. One reply, "She bled while you benefited." Another, "Your silence was political." The player deletes the post. This is not noise. It's an unraveling. Not loudly, but thoroughly. Institutions begin to look inward, not because of panic, but exposure. A major network reviews its commentary archives. A sportswear brand quietly changes its campaign lead. Conversations that were once dismissed as too much are now necessary meetings. In that tension, the system begins to fracture. Not with fireworks or boycotts, but with discomfort, with reflection, with pressure that has nowhere left to go but inward. Because now, the silence is broken, and the echo is only getting louder. CNN hosts a global panel titled, "Sports, Race, and Legacy." The set is sleek, polished, unblinking. The event is billed as a landmark dialogue, but no one watching cares about the graphics or the lights. They care because Serena Williams is finally here, not on a court, not selling shoes, not smiling on cue. She sits beside Ibrahim Traoré, stoic, composed, the man whose words shattered a wall that no apology ever touched. It's Serena's first public appearance since the broadcast, since the tear, since the silence ended. Social feeds are frozen. Live stream numbers climb by the second. No one wants to miss what might finally be said. The anchor opens with professional ease, his voice smooth and cautious. Tonight, we're joined by two icons. Serena Williams, global tennis legend, and Captain Ibrahim Traoré, head of state, soldier and recent voice of truth for millions. He speaks the words carefully, but everyone watching knows this isn't just another discussion. The room is filled with tension so sharp it hums. Eyes lock on Serena. Her face is still, but not unreadable. She waits. The anchor turns gently. "Serena," he begins, "how did it feel hearing that message when it aired live?" She inhales. A beat, like someone finally said what I wasn't allowed to. Her tone is flat, stripped of performance. Not rehearsed, not polished, just real. One claps. They just listen. Ibrahim sits next to her, hands folded. He nods, not for show, but because he's still listening too. The anchor shifts to him. "Why now, Captain?" Ibrahim meets the camera head on. "Because I saw her hold back tears for years, and I realized, if a soldier doesn't speak, who will?" There's no applause, just stillness. It lands like thunder. Footage overlays the silence. Flashbacks of Serena on podiums alone, of her walking off court while the crowd booed, of commentators dissecting her anger without naming the injustice, of moments where she won but looked like she'd lost something deeper. The anchor tries to bring in optimism, but haven't we seen progress slow, perhaps, but meaningful? Serena turns slightly, the edge of defiance peeking through. Not when the rules are changed every time we get close. The studio doesn't breathe. She turns, now fully, to Ibrahim. You called your message an apology from a generation. That line, why did it hit me so hard? Ibrahim doesn't rush. He looks at her not as a leader, not as a soldier, but simply as a man telling the truth. Because no one ever told you that you were enough. We just kept expecting you to survive, to absorb what others couldn't carry. A silence heavier than applause settles. Cameras hold still. No cuts. No commentary. Serena blinks once, her throat flexing as she swallows. Then, a whisper not broken, but free. That's why I cried. The panel doesn't rush to commercial. The producers don't cut to break. Even the networks let the moment breathe. A voice from the audience breaks through, young, soft, uncertain. A black teenage girl stands, shaking slightly, clutching a MIC. Do you think things will ever really change? Her voice cracks on the last word. Serena looks at her not as a celebrity, not as an activist, but as someone who remembers being that girl. She takes a second. Change doesn't start with systems, she says quietly. It starts with truth. Today, that's truth. The room absorbs it like oxygen. The anchor tries to bring it home. Perhaps what we're witnessing here is a new chapter in history, but even he knows his words are too clean, too easy. Because what just happened wasn't historic in its grandeur. It was historic in its stillness, in its refusal to decorate pain with performance. The camera doesn't pan away. It stays locked on the space between Serena and Ibrahim, two people who never rehearsed this moment, but lived its prelude for decades. There is no grand applause, no cue to cheer, just a shared gaze, a soft nod, a truth that has finally been spoken aloud, not for credit, not for clout, but because dignity, when defended in silence for too long, will one day rise and speak, not as anger, but as justice. This isn't performance, it's reckoning. The headlines roll for days. Serena doesn't post. She doesn't need to. The video speaks louder than any caption ever could. Newsrooms dissect the panel, blogs debate its ripple effects, and former critics issue soft-pedaled regrets packaged as growth, but Serena stays silent, not withdrawn, at peace. For the first time in years, her silence feels like ownership, not erasure. The world has talked enough. Now it listens differently. 1 year later, under a pale sun and without a single camera in sight, she walks through the gates of a modest new tennis center on the edge of Compton. There are no reporters, no choreographed ribbon cutting, just the sound of tennis balls popping against clay and laughter from kids who don't yet know they're standing in history. The center is CO, named after her, quietly funded by Ibrahim Traoré's foundation. She never asked for the honor. He never announced it. The plaque simply reads, Williams Traoré Academy. Narration eases into the stillness. Not everything changed, but something did. The cartoonist who once caricatured her pain as parody was quietly let go. Not cancelled, confronted. The umpire who belittled her on national television found himself facing questions from an ethics board and a very different audience than before. Brands that once ignored her power now clamor to attach their names, not out of newfound empathy, but fear of irrelevance. Inclusion isn't charity anymore. It's survival. Serena walks the court slowly, pausing at the edge of a lesson. A little black girl, maybe 7, runs up to her. Her braids bounce, her grip on the racket is clumsy. My name's Serena too, she says, almost shouting. Serena smiles, kneels. That's a strong name, she replies, touching the girl's shoulder. In that moment, no camera captures the exchange. No applause fills the air. But something beautiful happens, something no crowd could ever give her. Recognition. Legacy. A circle, finally unbroken, thousands of miles away, in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim watches a short clip of the academy on a grainy TV. The audio is low. He doesn't smile, he just watches. And when Serena's voice speaks from off-camera, guiding the young players, thanking the volunteers, he presses pause. Not to stop it, just to feel it longer. He leans back in his chair, resting his hands on his knees. Some messages don't need repeating. A final monologue overlays the screen, Serena's voice strong but tender. I never wanted to be a symbol. I just wanted to play. But if my silence held a door open, maybe now someone else can walk through without bruises. As the narration fades, the camera lingers on the small signs of shift, a brown-skinned coach guiding drills, a girl wearing her natural hair in a bun on center court, a lineup of young players saying her name with reverence, not apology. Back in Los Angeles, Serena returns home. Her street is the same. The air is familiar. But there's a softness in the way her neighbor, a woman who once glanced past her at the mailbox, now raises a tentative hand to wave. It's not performative. It's new. Serena nods once, slow. The exchange is small, almost invisible. But it means something. The world hasn't changed overnight, but something cracked. And when something cracks, light gets in. The final shot rests on a frame above the academy's front doors. Children run beneath it without reading, but the words are etched in permanence. She didn't cry because she was weak. She cried because no one ever said she could. And below that, quiet but clear, Ibrahim Traoré, fade to black.